My namaskar to all the Miltonians here, and thank you for this wonderful opportunity. The topic that has been chosen is celebrating unity and diversity and making India great again. So, unity and diversity. Now, when we think of Bharat, the first thought that always comes in the minds of people is unity in diversity. Because our country is such a country that has assimilated almost everyone who has come here, apart from all inherent diversity which was already there belonging to our great country. And everyone lives here with that feeling of oneness. Bharat has accommodated so many diverse types of cultures. So, though there is so much of diversity, each one is free, each state, each type of community. There are diverse languages, cultures, food, habits, dressing, many things are diverse. Everyone has the freedom to practice what they are belonging to, and yet there is a certain unity. States are different, districts are different, politically each area may be different. But what is it that binds all of us together? At different levels, this unity is what we understand. So when we see one of the reasons how we are bound together, in fact, our Chinmay Mission family, our Chinmay Mission pledge, the first line says, we stand as one family bound to each other with love and respect. So what unites us as a country also is this attitude that we belong to one nation. In spite of diversities, this is our country. That feeling of identification with the country, that feeling of oneness is what makes us most united. And if we go back into history, though there may have been many different kingdoms in the whole Bharat of ours, yet culturally we were always one. So what unites us together is the culture. The inherent culture of this land, the Vedic culture of this land, is most beautiful, universal, accommodative culture, where we believe in diversity inherently, in diverse thought processes. And that's why one can be, if you see in the Vedic culture, from a non-believer to a worshipper of a form to an absolute formless, everybody coexist together. Culturally, if you see, we are so united by many ways. Sanskrit is one language which used to unite us. Today we have unfortunately gone away from that, but it is time to revive that language once again. And many institutions are doing that great work also. So language wise, Sanskrit used to unite all of us. If you see the vision wise, spiritual knowledge wise, Vedic culture pervaded throughout the whole country. You go right from Kashmir onwards. Kashmir itself is a beautiful land. Land of Kashyap Rishi is supposed to be Kashmir. The birthplace of Kashmir Shaivism, birthplace of yoga, all that is Kashmir. Even today's Kandahar is supposed to be Gandhar of the earlier days. So our country was very vast. Today our borders have shrunk quite a bit, but across from the west to the north, from there to the east, everywhere, wherever we see, this Vedic culture was pervading this whole land. The same deities we find, if you know, the oldest civilization, the oldest living civilization of this world is the Saraswati Sindhu civilization. The only culture which is surviving today, the oldest culture surviving today, Greek, Mesopotamian, Egyptian, Mayan, Roman, all of these have become extinct. They are in museums. The Saraswati Sindhu civilization has survived so many attacks, invasions, many things, and it is still a living culture. And when various archaeological findings were done, so many things that we practice today are still from that time. The very namaste itself that we say is a tradition of 10,000 years more. The Shivalinga is worshipped in the north, in the south, in the east, in the west, everywhere. Our rivers, like Saraswati River itself, it flows from the Kapal Shikhar, comes into Himachal, Punjab, Rajasthan, goes into the Gujarat and into Bay of Bengal. So it was flowing that side in the west. And yet it is that we all are familiar with the concept of Kumbh Mela and Prayag, where we say Triveni Sangam. So rivers, Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, Brahmaputra, Kaveri, rivers also, the knowledge was spread everywhere. The Vedic culture was being practiced on the banks of all these great rivers. So whether it is the deities which were worshipped, whether it is the rivers, the travel between the countries, between the various states. If you see Ramayana, right from Ayodhya, Bhagwan walks down all the way, goes to Lanka. Many things were uniting us. Most of these you will find are cultural aspects which unite us. Unfortunately, we have been fed a lot of wrong information. So first step to make India great is to understand our great past and understand the vision of oneness. The Aryan invasion theory itself is a myth that has been propounded by the British, and we have divided ourselves as North Indians are Aryans, South Indians are Dravidians, and a lot of politics, etc., is based on the divisive thinking. But it is a myth. There was no Aryans who came from there. There are lots of research done on it. We even made a play called Saraswati, called Adrishya, based on the whole thing. So the idea is culture binded us together. The Vedic civilization binded us together. The celebration of festivals bonds us together. Same festivals we celebrate across the whole country, even today. So it is not that there are state specific only. Apart from having those specific celebrations which are individual community based, there are certain festivals which are celebrated across. So what bonded us was the culture, the language, the festivals, the pilgrim places, the Char Dham, the big Char Dham, where Badrinath, Dwarka, Rameshwaram, Puri, they are in 4 parts of the country. And Adi Shankaracharya ji even established many mathas, and 4 main mathas are in 4 different places. So when we see the past of ours, in spite of diversity, we were always united. Culturally, we were a one country. And that is what we have to understand today, because there are enough forces which are out there to divide. We must understand that culturally we have been one. And it is because of this culture that so many people who have come from outside our country have accommodated, they have become a part of our country. We have even adapted many of our, we have even taken up many of the traditions of their culture and accommodated and made them as a part of our culture. So this is one aspect, culturally, how we are one and yet we are diverse. Second thing, what binds us, as I said earlier, is the feeling that we all are Indians. Whenever this feeling has come together, whenever this feeling is there in us that we are Indians first, we have always come together. The freedom movement also shows that many social issues, when we wanted to bring our country out of many of the social issues, again there the whole country has come together. Very recently we find that many things like cricket, they bind us together. And many times the aggressions when they happen, wars, etc., when they happen, that also binds us together, that we all are one country. So there is a feeling of this is my country. That feeling of patriotism is what binds. And that feeling is very, very important. When this feeling goes away, that is when we start thinking about my state, my community, and then each one wants their own freedom. But we all belong to one state. So that vision of oneness as a country, again, is a very important aspect, that there is diversity and yet there is oneness, that we belong to one country. This is our nation. Further, if we go, we celebrate diversity in this country because of the philosophy where we believe this whole world itself is one family. Because we know that every single being here is essentially divine, not only human being. So why is it that the Hindus follow this aspect, where we worship the trees, we worship the rivers, we worship the mountains, we worship nature? Because we see that this whole creation is an appearance of the divine. We don't distinguish, we don't discriminate, we don't have this attitude of superiority, inferiority. Some people definitely may have that and they exploit the system, but on the whole, the knowledge is such beautiful knowledge that we worship everybody, all the living beings, as being one family. That's why Vasudha Eva Kutumbakam, the whole earth is one family. This vision of oneness is so beautiful that when we come to spirituality, we break away all the divisions and we start seeing oneness. Today, when we see so much of issues about global warming, pollution, environmental issues, one of the reasons is because we have put ourselves before nature. We have put ourselves before the country. Our knowledge, our spiritual philosophy teaches us that we worship Prakriti as a mother, and that Prakriti is a power of the Supreme. So very eco-friendly culture is our culture. So when we look at this culture, many times people say this is old, primitive, but are we not seeing today that what we have been doing in this culture is what the whole world has taken up in these COVID times? Namaste. Now everybody is saying Namaste. Now everybody is washing their feet before coming into the house. Now they are cremating the dead, not just burying them. So many things like that. Now they are following all those things which our culture has been teaching us from time immemorial. It's a very beautiful, rational, scientific culture, and there is so much of nature-friendly life that our culture teaches us. We used to use coal. When I was a child, I remember this very distinctly. Advertisement used to come on TV. Advertisements used to come on television that, how can you use charcoal and, to brush your teeth, and how your gums will get disturbed and all that, get hurt and all that. And they said no need of charcoal, this and that. And now today what has happened? Toothpaste come with charcoal flavor. We used to eat in that banana leaf and that donna, and they brought all the disposable culture. And today what is happening? Again, now people are coming back to that. And now there are people who are using that as an economy to export it to us. We were using that by ourselves here already. The plantain leaves and all that. Many such things, beautiful things of our culture. If we anchor into back to our roots, that is the way to become great once again. So culturally, we were one. As a nation, we identify ourselves as one nation. Philosophy wise, we revere all the beings. That is one way to live, with compassion, with love, with sensitivity towards all. And if we go still one step further, Vedanta goes to even say that there is absolute oneness between the living as well as the non-living. What does our culture say? Akhanda mandalakaram vyaptam yena characharam. Moving, non-moving, living, non-living. All of this is pervaded by one consciousness. And is it not true that today quantum physics is saying the same thing? Traditional physics says that matter is the source of this whole creation. Quantum physics says no, matter is not the source. Quantum consciousness is the source of this whole creation. So when we understand our philosophy, it opens up our mind to a vision of oneness, to a vision of living with diversity, and yet seeing unity in and through that. So this knowledge is a very important aspect. Now, how to make India great? I have 5 points to just share. There are simple points, nothing new that I'm going to tell you, but this is what I feel are things that we have to revive once again. Point 1 is the intellectual vision, the vision of development. If we say that by next 10 years, India must become a $5 trillion economy, then everyone comes together to make that happen. Whatever it may be Atmanirbhar Bharat, it may be, Make in India, Skill India, Digital India, so many programs are there. Each one comes together, shedding the differences, working for a common cause. That is a very important aspect. Otherwise, we are right now in the year 2020. In 2003, we had done a movement called Awakening Indians to India. We brought out a book of 500 pages, and each page is a positive, inspiring fact about India's achievements. Because at that time, the national self-esteem was very low, and people felt that there's nothing in India. They all wanted to go out abroad, settle there, study there, and nobody wanted to be here. Majority of the youth was looking that side. So we brought out that book to inspire the youngsters. We had a quiz on that, Awakening Indians to India. And the finals of this quiz, the final winners, we took them on a Bharat Darshan tour, and it concluded with a meeting with the president at that time, Dr. Abdul Kalam ji. He told us at that time, and very soon after that, he even brought out that book called India 2020. He already gave the vision very clearly how to make India a developed country by 2020. But he was not a part of any political party. Political parties never took it up. And each one of them bickering about themselves, that whole vision got left aside. Otherwise, we could have been somewhere else today by 2020. So we have to ensure that our country comes first. What is the vision with which we want to work? As individuals, as corporates, as whole communities, as states, everyone has to come together to work with a common vision that we have to make our India a $5 trillion, a $10 trillion economy. Let us say that is a goal. Then one comes together, because if one does not come together, then we can only keep talking. In Chinmay Mission, we have this formula, vision minus action is equal to imagination. It will just remain imagination. Action minus vision creates divisions. We just go on acting but have no vision at all. How are we going to become great? We will only keep dividing ourselves. But vision plus action creates transformation. So we need a proper vision. It could be an economic model that can help us, or any other thing, even like Swachh Bharat. When Swachh Bharat was launched, many people laughed at it. But today we are seeing the impact of that, and many individuals, many groups, many NGOs, many communities have taken it up, and some work is happening towards that. Yesterday was World Toilet Day. I don't know if you know. After 70 years of independence also, we still have to focus on building toilets for our people in the community. That speaks so many things about what we have done and what we have not done. So if the country comes together, then anything is possible. Otherwise, we will keep fighting with each other. So first point to make India great is to come together for a common vision. We may have differences of opinion, but our culture always teaches us that we must come together, sinking our differences for a common cause, work with complete sense of dedication. That brings success. That is called Yajna spirit in the 3rd chapter of the Gita. So first point is that we must have the common vision. Second, in the same intellectual aspect, we should also be proud of what our country has been and what the country is. If that pride is not there, very soon any obstacles come, we will just let go. We will not face the obstacles, we will run away from here. You know, in the book called Ignited Minds, Dr. Kalam says a very beautiful line. He says, we are a link of a grand past, of a great past to a grand future. We are the link. And we should have both. A great past we should know about, and a grand future we must be clear about. Both these are very important, because when I know what my greatness of the past is, 200 years has been a temporary fall till about 1800, century 1800. We were the largest contributing economy in the world, GDP wise. The competition was always between India and China. The Industrial Revolution, which also a lot of things were funded from here. The British did that Industrial Revolution there, taking a lot of wealth from here. It is just a 200 years of so-called dip. We can rise back again. In the history of a country which spans over millenniums, 200 years is just a small setback. We can bounce back again. But for that, we must have the clarity that what were our great ancestors doing, what kind of an India they built. Look at our monuments, art, culture, literature, dance, music, management, everything. What variety they have, what innovation, what all thinking they had done. We have forgotten all that. So we are not having any pride. When we involve this younger generation in this process, make them proud, make them aware who your ancestors were, from where do you come, where do you belong. America is just a 200-year-old nation, but look at what they have come to achieve, at least in terms of development in some ways, because they came together. We need to inspire our generations with the knowledge and the glory of the past, so that they have the pride to face the challenges in the present to achieve a great vision for the future. That intellectual clarity we must have. Vision of the past as well as the future. Second comes the emotion. That is at the mind level. At mind level, what is important is the feeling for the country, that this is my country. And when I say I love my country, how much is that feeling? What is the feeling that a soldier has for the country? That the soldier is ready to give up one's life for the country. The honor of the country matters to the soldier more than anything else. That even today we were celebrating Deepavali, but on the Ladakh and China border, our soldiers are still fighting. And so many of them became, there is a specific word we use. Actually, in the army, they don't use the word martyr. I'm just forgetting that word. They have sacrificed their life. We are lighting lamps here because they are fighting for us there. We are safe here because of them. That feeling, that the honor of the country, the honor of the flag, and that nation above self, that feeling has to come in all of us. We have to train our youngsters, our children to have that feeling, that nation above self. You know, it was said, I heard somewhere, I've not verified it personally, but I came to know that somebody told me, very inspiring. They said that when a child is born in Japan, the first word that the child learns to pronounce is not mother, father, or any such thing. The first word the child learns to pronounce is Japan. How has Japan bounced back after the atom bomb attacks happened on them? Because they came together to rebuild their economy, their country, and they did bounce back. So how did they do? Because nation above self. If we teach our children only to think about themselves, their life, their career, then country cannot become great. Sacrifice, service, vision, those things are very important. What are the ideals and the values that our flag represents? Orange is for renunciation, that is selfishness, renunciation of selfishness. White is peace, green is prosperity, blue is that Ashok Chakra, continuous dynamic efforts. This feeling has to come. And this feeling can come when we have that feeling. Otherwise, lip service will not work. Whatever choices I am doing, do I keep my country in mind? Is this good for my country? Including simple one, wearing a mask, being careful today is so that COVID does not spread in my country. So many countries now are reimposing the lockdown because of the second wave and because the different challenges that are going to come up there now. We must ensure that we don't do that, that we are able to go through this winter phase by our alertness. Where I put country, I may have to go through some discomfort. So what? But this is for my country. If I'm studying, I am studying to be a contributor to my country, not just to make my career. That feeling has to come. And this feeling will come when we have the knowledge about our past and greater vision about the future. So one is vision, second is the emotion, third is the speech. You see, today also, there are so many people who will not say Jai Hind, who will not say Vande Mataram. On the contrary, there are other types of forces who want to break our country. Bharat tere tukde honge and all that. And it is very strange that many of our young people get very easily carried away and they get indoctrinated into all this. That has to stop. Where we are able to ensure that we speak positive about the country. If we cannot speak positive, at least don't speak negative and don't spread hate. That is a very important step, because what we speak, that impacts our mind as well as others. So positive speech about the country, about growth, about development, about how we can make our country great, those things are a very, very important aspect of how to make India great again. So vision, emotion, speech, and then comes action, where we learn to act efficiently, promptly. We are able to be accountable, and we have the highest standards while acting, where excellence is our goal, not a chalta hai attitude or an attitude of mediocrity or an attitude where we say that, you know, it is okay, somehow we will do it. Who bothers? Money is the most important. No, excellence, quality, no compromise attitude in execution. This is very, very crucial. So when we do all this together, I am sure we can all bounce back very quickly. I want to end this session with a very simple, beautiful clip of Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda ji. And I will just share that with you here.
In order to develop this love, which is natural for everyone in yourself, from top, the crown, to the tip of your toe, you love you, isn't it? Even though the hands are not the legs are not the toes are not the fingers, the finger is not like the nose is not like the ears. Every part is different in shape, in name, and in function. What the eyes can do, the ears cannot do. What the nose can do, the tongue cannot do. They have got different functions. What the hands can do, the leg can never do. Within me, myself, there are so many different shapes, forms, purposes, or functions. And yet, am I not one? From the tip of the toe to the top of my crown, am I not one? How do you feel that is oneness? The hand is not the leg is not the thumb is not the nose, and yet I say is one. How? I pervade every cell in me. You may be 250 pounds, 6-footer with 60 chest. And if I bring a pin and say that for what you have done, we have decided that the pin must be put in, you choose, because democracy, you choose where it should be put. Right? In that huge body, this little pin, you cannot choose any place. You choose every place and say, no, 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 no. Until at last you say, if you must put the pin, why not try it on my neighbor? Why? Because every cell you love equally, because you know that it is me. Within your body you have got the feeling. In your body also. It is very often happens that your own finger goes to your own eyes. Has it not happened to you? Have you not bitten your own tongue? Even if you are the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, sense of justice, will you say that this finger unnecessarily went and hit the eyes? The eyes was always serving the finger whenever it was doing any work. It's unprovoked aggression. Isn't it? Like Sadat, let us go and chop off the finger as an example for the entire body politic, that there must be discipline in the body. Will you say that? When it is your own finger that goes to your eyes, immediately all the 5 fingers together as a committee goes to the eyes and start rubbing it and silently saying, I am sorry, I never meant it. Isn't it? The eyes though watering, it is red, but it cannot even open the eyes. But I open the eyes and look at the finger and silently say, I know it, and I forgive my finger, isn't it? Supposing it is the finger of the man who is sitting next to you came in your eyes. Your sense of justice is cut his finger off. Let him learn how to. Why? He is something different from me. My friends, when you start really analyzing it, the whole world is your body. Just as every cell in you is so sacred, every living being in the outer world, every mineral piece in the world outside is a part of you. It is not anything other than you. With this understanding when comes a sense of goodwill towards all living beings, that they are not separate from me, service then becomes not a service before self or after self. It will be service as when my, let us say, calf muscle is scratching. My hand goes and scratches. Does the hand ever say, leg, if you have got scratching, you scratch. Why should I do it? What will you give me for scratching? No, I run there and do it, isn't it? Why? The joy of that is the joy of the whole body. It is not only the leg, but it is the hand also. The comfort comes to the hand also. In the same way, wherever there is sorrow that I see, I run there and try to remove and wipe off as much as possible the tears of others, not because they are others, but they are my own son. If this universal vision has come, and this is what Vedanta asks you, all the devotees are seeing Ram everywhere, meaning that one reality everywhere. Once you see that, the sense of plurality goes away. These distinctions at national level or communal level or even individual level was all wiped out into one divine presence. With this unfoldment in yourself, you shall find that the world is preserved. Even now the world is not destroyed. Only you create a destruction for yourself in the world. That is all. You make a hell of this world, but the world is staying there. If you stop doing this mischief, the world will reorganize itself. Learn to serve others without selfishness.
So that was beautiful analogy Gurudev gave, and that is what I want to conclude with, that just like the body has different parts, we all should have that feeling that we all may be different, but we all are also one, and then serve the nation without selfishness. So the last point was serve as a sevak, as a servant, that I am here to serve my country as a servant, with that humility, with that ability to let go of my ego. I serve my country, keeping my country as the altar. So I want to conclude by just making a simple appeal that many times we have our puja room, we have our altar, etc. Any other symbols. Our country's flag must be there, because all our actions are dedicated for the growth and development of our country. In Chinmay Mission, we say that our culture, we have learned Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atithi Devo Bhava. These four things we have learned. This has come to us from the Upanishads. Now is the time to learn the fifth one, Rashtra Devo Bhava. That may the country be the altar of our surrender, and may all of us work with a sense of purpose that this country has to be made great again, and that can be possible when we surrender at the altar of our country. So thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity, and over to you, Udayji.
Thank you so much, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji. Wonderful. Well done. Very
Well
nice.
done. Very great. Great.
Very nice.
So my handle is called Chinmay Shivam.
Okay.
It is not Chinmay Mission. My handle is called Chinmay Shivam, and if any of you would like to follow, you can follow me on YouTube. There is a channel also, Chinmay Shivam, and then on various other social media you can find on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook,
So
everywhere.
So we have a time for only two questions. If anybody wants to just ask Swamiji for two questions, can just quickly do that.
Swamiji,
Haji.
Mayur Nayak here. I have
Yes, Swamiji.
found India is more united outside India.
That is true. I very
And you know, that is something, you know, when we go out and we realize the value of our country.
yeah.
We-
That is what has to be brought back here, because
Exactly.
there we suddenly start missing, you know, and also sometimes we feel lonely there, and then Indians come together there to feel a sense of bonding and belonging. Yeah, that has to happen here.
And that is why.
Excellent talk, Swamiji. Thank you.
Okay, one more question, please.
That is why. Yeah, tell me.
Uday, can I ask?
Yeah, Ashok, go on.
Namaskar, Swamiji. Very enjoyable and experience. And even the last clip that you showed was the icing on the cake. I wanted to know what is the role of spiritual development in the whole context. We talked about intellectual vision and emotion and the action and vocabulary, but what is the role of spiritualizing?
The role of spiritual is what I covered in the beginning actually, and which Gurudev ended by saying that Vedanta brings us this vision of oneness, because that letting go of the ego is the main crux of spiritual knowledge. When we learn to drop the ego, how to drop the ego, how to act out of one vision of oneness, which what Gurudev said, you know, the devotees are seeing Ram everywhere. So that vision of oneness, when it comes, then the person becomes capable of manifesting the infinite potential. And each one of us has this tremendous potential. And I just heard when I logged in that Chinmayji was saying that individually we should transform. That again is a point that spirituality emphasizes a lot, that through individual transformation, world transformation is possible. So when a person anchors in spiritual knowledge, one will have the inside out approach of living life, where I transform within and then I become a better human being, which nowadays people say better version or the best version of yourself, and then you become a better contributor to the society. And spiritual knowledge also gives me that strength to overcome any challenges and stress, worries, anxieties that come. Because higher the goal is, greater are the obstacles also that will arise. What gives me that strength to face is the spiritual knowledge and the grounding. So that's the role of spirituality.
Okay. Thank you once again, Swamiji. Thank you so much for that brilliant sharing, I must say. And it was really an honor to have you with us. And I'm sure in MILT we have, a lot of such leadership sessions are going on. And in fact, you would be glad to know that our mentor, Aparesh Acharya, has been a disciple of Swami Chinmayananda at some point of time. And definitely this session of yours will go as one of the best session that MILT has had. So once again, thank you. And on behalf of the entire MILT fraternity all over the India, I express my gratitude for coming here and gracing this session. Thank you and
Thank you
Hari Om.
so much. Hari Om.
Yeah.
Hari Om. Hari Om, Swamiji.
Hari Om.